Hello. On behalf of the Directorate of Personal Family Readiness and the Risk Reduction Program, we welcome you to the Suicide Awareness event. I'm Jennifer Grasty. I am your Installations Suicide Prevention Program Manager, and I just want to cover a few housekeeping rules. No food or beverages, restrooms are out to your right, and if you pre-registered and you didn't get your book, come see us at the end and we'll get you your book, okay? So for opening remarks, please help me in welcoming our Joint Base Garrison Commander, Colonel Lamb.
All right. Okay, so I'm going to step over on this side of the stage, and I'm going to get down, and I'm going to get over here for two reasons. One, COVID. And two, is that dude 7'2". And if I'm right next to him, it looks really, really weird, and I'm going to have a tough weekend thinking about that. Hey, so he's the main event. I'm the introduction. I've spent about 23 years in the military, and of those 23 years, every single year, I've done something like this, except I've been in the stands or been forcing my soldiers to go to these engagements, and I've always, I gotta be honest, I've struggled, right? Like they're struggling back there. I have struggled with the value of these events. I think there are some of the 148 some odd people who signed up for this event to come here in person, and then probably another couple hundred who are plugged in online who will get some value out of this event. The reason that you're gonna get value out of this event is not necessarily because of that beautiful tall man's words, although they're gonna be very, very important, and they're gonna help you with his vision of how to deal with stress. The reason is internal to you, right? You come to these events and you get something out of these events because you want it and you need it. You need to get something out of it. And there's a lot of reason to need positive outlets right now. COVID is one of them that I'm struggling with. The reduction of things that are taking place in Afghanistan as we speak is something I'm dealing with, right? Having spent a lot of quality time in some of those regions. We all have our baggage, right? And you all must find productive methods and ways to take care of that, but it's on you. And here's why I am frustrated about these events over the course of 2 decades, and why I'm specifically frustrated today. One of my jobs is to be in charge of your morale, welfare, and recreation, MWR. How many MWR events have you seen us be running on this installation recently? Very, very few. There is 3 aspects of readiness, people, and it's not just your physical readiness, it's your mental and your spiritual readiness as well. And I have failed, and our organization has failed to be able to provide you the programs and services in this tough COVID time to be able to have positive outlets to deal with your stresses and your concerns. I am doing the best that I can, and I will continue to push hard to open up more services and programs, but you must be patient because this Delta variant is no joke. Of the 2,700 civilian employees that work within the garrison, we lost one this weekend to COVID, and that was an anti-vaxxer. He was a proclaimed anti-vaxxer. That does not make it any more sad that we lost his life and that his spouse is currently struggling as well as she's in the emergency room dealing with COVID as well. But this Delta variant is no joke. I did not try to turn this into a COVID vaccination course. That was not my purpose. My purpose was to say that I am not able to run the services and programs that I need to be able to run on this installation for you and your mental and physical readiness at this time. And I ask for your patience getting through the holiday season, which is always very joyous for some and not so much for others. But I hope to see light at the end of the tunnel in the spring. We will bring back some more readiness and resilience programs and services in our MWR for you. Okay? So enough of my blathering on. Thank you for your attendance today here, both in person and online. Thank you very much for coming here with an open mind on taking some of the lessons that you're about to realize and learn and applying them to yourselves so that we can drive down this horrible problem set that's across our entirety of our globe, but really highlighted within the military, and that's dealing with these types of stress and having outlets so that we don't end up taking our lives, all right? So with that, I'm gonna turn it over to I'm turning it back over to you for a video, right? We're gonna play a video first and then the formal introduction, sir, and I ain't coming anywhere near you, 7'2" tall man. All right, thanks. Go hide behind that thing.
Go hide. I am, sir. I'm wrong. So thank you, Colonel Lamb, for those words. The video? No video. Sorry, you all, no video, so I'll just start the introduction, okay? So our guest speaker today is Mr. James Donaldson, former NBA All-Star, business owner, and community fixture in Seattle for over 40 years. It was after seeing a heartfelt and meaningful discussion with James on one of our local news stations on the topic of suicide and how life has been impacted. And so our program decided to reach out and asked him to consider coming here to talk to the Joint Base Lewis-McChord community. After several get-togethers, there was a few, we're very excited for this day to finally be here and for him to share his story with all of you. So we recognize that this can be a difficult topic to talk about and to listen to, but we thank you for attending in person and those on Facebook Live. So at this time, please help me and welcome me to the stage, Mr. James Donaldson.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, okay. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And thank you, Colonel, for your words as well. The work that you're doing, the activities you provide are essential to have everyone in a good physical and mental state at all times. We don't have our audio-video stuff going yet, I guess. Let me know when it's available, and we'll jump into that. So, as the introduction said, I'm James Donaldson, longtime Seattle resident. What brought me to Seattle after my graduation from Washington State University? Go Cougs! Any Cougs out here? Okay. 1979, I graduated from WSU. 1979, the Seattle Supersonics won the World Championship. I joined the team in 1980 with a bunch of great world-class athletes and championship caliber players. A great coach, Lenny Wilkins was our coach, with the great players, Jack Sikma, Gus Williams, Downtown, Freddie Brown, Lonnie Shelton, all the rest of them. So I played with that team for 3 years, and we had some really, really great times. That was my introduction into the NBA, but also my introduction into Seattle. And I've been in Seattle ever since. So it's just been a wonderful stay. I've traveled all over the country, all over the world playing basketball. I played 20 years professional, 14 of those years in the NBA, and then another 6 years overseas. So I've been in some of the greatest cities of the world, greatest places in the world, and probably up until about a half a dozen years ago or so, Seattle was the place for me to keep on coming back to. Seattle's changed a lot in the last few years, and so that is the story of my stay in Seattle over that time. But I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about a very, very difficult and delicate topic, mental health, okay? Mental health awareness and suicide prevention more specifically. I myself went through a bout of mental challenges back in 2018, and through just dogged determination and medical help with my medical professionals, a good group of close, intimate friends, I worked my way through this over a 12-month journey of pure darkness, depression, and despair, to the point where I had it all planned out of how to exit this world. And luckily, I didn't do that. Luckily, I didn't choose that pathway. I'm still here to tell my story. And that's the essence of what I want to talk about today. No matter how difficult times get, you have to hang in there and be able to tell your story. The last thing any of us want is to have somebody run around trying to talk about how great a person you were, what you were all about, their words instead of your words. And that's what really got me to just say, hey, I'm going to make it through this thing, and I'm going to get out there and share my story with other folks to see if we could help others work their way through this mental health crisis that we're going through. This is going to be the next epidemic, next pandemic that comes our way is mental health challenges. After we're finally done with COVID and Delta and Mu and all the rest of these things, guess what? A lot of people right now, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions around the world, are dealing with mental health challenges. Being shut down like we were, having your life disrupted like we did, kids no longer able to socialize in those very, very crucial adolescent years where they need social bonding, they need relationship building, they need play and joy in their life. And they don't understand. You know, they haven't been around long enough to understand what life is all about yet. And we're making them wear masks and socially distant, learn online, not anything like our childhoods growing up. So this is a whole different situation we're dealing with. And these poor kids will be affected by this for the next decades of their lives. And I encourage all of them now and their families to make sure that they have mental health counseling to be able to help them through these kind of things. The rest of us, hey, we're not used to this either. Having to wear a mask in public, socially distancing ourselves, no longer to just go about our lives as we used to and not have the worry of a insidious virus that has taken the lives of almost 700,000 Americans so far and millions around the world. We'll get on top of it, but we got to hang in there and just keep on doing the right thing. But let me get on to my topic about mental health. You know, life is one of those things that I put into a couple different packages. One is a life that we can affect and we can do a lot of great things with, or we can do a lot of terrible things with. Unfortunately, a lot of people make bad choices and their lives don't turn out to be as productive and bountiful as it should be. They get involved with things, crazy things, excess drinking, drugs, homelessness, promiscuity, gambling, addictions of all sorts. And that just makes going up life's mountain that much more difficult. The other aspect of life is when life happens to you, beyond your control. You know, we all know that at some point in our lives, our parents most likely will pass on before us. We prepare ourselves for that, you know, if we have the good grace of time, we can prepare ourselves to see that coming eventually. None of us expect to lose our children, and that's devastating. But we all do at some point, if we realistically think about it, expect to lose our parents. And we prepare ourselves for that. None of us expect to go into a marriage and then end up with a divorce. But statistics show us that 50% of marriages will end in divorce, unfortunately. You can't prepare for that unless it's horrible from the beginning or horrible years towards the end. But we have to do the best we can. And so Scripture tells us that life will not be without its trials and tribulations. My old pastor, Pastor Samuel McKinney up at Mount Zion Baptist Church in Seattle, where I've gone to church for 35 years, used to tell us 30 years ago, he's passed on now a couple years ago, used to tell us, if you haven't gone through hard times yet, keep on living. Just keep on living. He lived to be 92 years old. His last couple years, he could no longer take care of himself. Wheelchair bound, having somebody care for him 24/7, have somebody feed him, change his diapers. He could no longer walk. And that was his words of advice to us. If you haven't gone through hard times yet, keep on living. Father Time and Mother Nature will always win out in the end. And so that's even more important, why we have to do the best we can while we can in this place of time now. Keep on forging ahead and being as strong as you possibly can, keeping your mental health strong. My life, I like to characterize my life as a charmed life throughout my 40s, 50s, and early 60s. I had no problems. Played NBA basketball for all those years. I was a business owner with a physical therapy business for almost 30 years. Homeowner for 40 years. I had everything going on. And then all of a sudden, out of the blue, January 2015, I was struck with an aortic dissection, a heart issue that is 98% fatal if you don't catch it in time. They caught mine just in the nick of time and repaired my heart, my aorta. I ended up going through 4 major surgeries in 5 years. Flat on my back, basically all of 2015. Flat on my back most of 2016. My business is starting to falter. I can no longer really pay attention to it the way I used to. 2016, my mother passed away. My wife walked out on her marriage, took her son with her, my stepson. I was facing financial issues. All of my NBA savings, hundreds of thousands of dollars I had saved up for retirement, I put back into my business, trying to keep the business going as long as I could. We had 25 employees, and I felt a sense of obligation to each and every one of them to keep things going as long as I possibly could. I went through foreclosure, lost my house that I had lived in for 40 years in Seattle. Bankruptcy, near eviction. When the bank took over my house and put it on the market, I'm sitting on the front steps wondering where I'm going to live. And so I had all of these things happen to me in a span of 2 or 3 years. 2018 was probably the most difficult and dark year I've ever experienced. 12 months of pure darkness and depression and despair. I finally reached out to my medical doctor, my family doctor, and I told him, I said, hey, doc, I can't sleep anymore. I'm waking up at 2 in the morning. My mind's racing 100 miles an hour. And I'm trying to figure out, 1, how to get some money together to save my business, and 2, how to exit this world and be done with the misery and this pain and suffering I was going through. My doctor looked at me, and he sat about 4 feet away from me in his office, and he said, James, wow, you were going through anxiety, depression, and suicidal ideations, all 3 of them. We got to get you some help. Luckily, he did. Luckily, he was the kind of a doctor that took the time to really listen to me as his patient. Took a few extra minutes between patients and said, wow, let's talk about what you're going through. He put me on prescription medication for about 6 months. And then I reached out to a small, intimate group of friends. A couple of my old coaches, Coach George Raveling over at Washington State University, Coach Lenny Wilkins with the Seattle Supersonics. Both of these guys are in their mid-80s now. And they said they would be there for me, and like a pair of crutches, one on either side of me, they stayed there with me and helped walk me through this journey of darkness. Other good friends, I asked them if I could call them at 2 in the morning when I couldn't sleep. And they all put their hand up and said, hey, put me on speed dial. Call me. Call me. One of my dear friends is right here. Came to see our presentation today. And when I wasn't in my right state of mind, I took our 20-year friendship and threw it out like some old bath water. And he got drenched by all that dirty bath water. But he realized I wasn't in my right state of mind. And he stood there with me. He came back and helped put that friendship back together. And that's what a dear, dear, good friend is all about. We need those kind of people in our lives. You have to reach out and find somebody that you can talk to and share what's on your mind, what's in your heart. Guys especially, us guys, we are just notorious for not wanting to reach out and ask for help. As an athlete, hey, the last thing I wanted to do was let my opponent know that I had a weakness. I had an injury that was going to slow me down. My knee was bad, my ankle was bad, my back was bad. No, you're not going to see that. We just plow through this stuff. Mainly because we learn as little boys that boys don't cry. And that carries on into our adult years. We have to get over that, guys. Let people know that you are hurting. It's okay not to be okay. And it's even better to reach out for help to people who can help you. There's no shame in this game. You know, even me, big old, strong, tough guy like me. I mean, I spent many, many a night crying into my pillow at night, all by myself. But I made it through, and that's the essence of the story today, of what I want to share with you. You can make it through too, and you will. This gift of life that we have is the most precious gift you're ever going to have. Don't use it. Don't disuse it. Don't abuse it. Don't discount it and throw it away. I went through all these things, and I'm still here to tell my story. You know, a reporter asked me earlier today, what was the catalyst? What was the moment that I said, okay, I'm going to try to keep on pushing my way through this thing? And that was in January 2018. Our young superstar Washington State University quarterback, Tyler Helinski, was set to be the next starting quarterback for the Cougar football team, took a shotgun and blew his brains out on the campus of WSU. The next week or two, people are running around trying to tell Tyler's story. How could he do this? His parents, who I got a chance to meet, are still wondering 3 years later, what happened? We showered that boy with love. He had everything. He had everything in the palm of his hand. The starting quarterback for Washington State University, a professional career in the weight. And he threw it all away, and still nobody knows why. And for weeks after that, people were running around trying to tell Tyler's story. And I said, no. You know, I said, I'm going to doggedly determine myself to make it through this difficult time. And I was all alone. This is the problem with mental health challenges. You feel all alone, but you're not alone. You have to realize that people still care about you. My doctor told me the same thing. He said, James, if you take your life, people are going to miss you. People love you. People care about you. And I looked right back at him, 3 or 4 feet away from him. I looked him dead in the eye. I said, Doc, nobody cares about me. Nobody's going to miss me. Nobody loves me. He said, we got to get you some help. And luckily, I was open to receiving that help. Anti-anxiety medication, anti-depression medication, 6 months worth. But you know what? Finally, the darkness started lifting towards the end of 2018. Finally, I didn't think it was ever going to lift. Hopelessness is one of the most drastic issues you're going to deal with in dealing with mental health challenges. When you feel there is no hope, there is no tomorrow, but there is. You just can't see it. It's out there waiting for you to work your way through all of this. As I mentioned, my old pastor, I'm a man of faith, grew up in the church, and if nothing else, I knew God was still with me. I knew he was holding my hand and walking me through this. Because I knew if I held onto his hands, at some point I'd let go. So he held my hand and walked me through. I don't know why he let me go through all of this, but I realized why when the darkness started lifting. It was to be able to share my story, to use my platform as a oversized, almost larger-than-life individual, African-American man who dealt with mental health issues head-on and made it through. As a former NBA player, to be able to talk to our youth and people around the country, I made it through. All of these things I worked so long and hard for. And I remember George Raveling, my old basketball coach, told me, he said, "Hey, James, you've worked way too long and hard to just throw it all away now." George knew me when I was a high school senior back in Sacramento. And he said, "James, I'm not going to let you throw it all away." And I listened to him. And I made it. I'm going to tell you the deepest, darkest, most difficult time, other than the Tyler Helinski incident, was in February 2018. I'm down at the NBA All-Star Game in Los Angeles. The whole NBA family's there. Current players, retired players, all the corporate sponsors, national exposure, worldwide TV audience. And I was in the deepest, deepest part of that depression right then. It was a 4-day weekend. I had a nice hotel room up in the hotel towers we were staying at. And I felt for sure I was not going to make it through this weekend. I was going to end my life. I talked to Adam Silver, the NBA commissioner, and I told him, I said, "Hey, I'm not going to make it through." He got me some help, some people to talk to me, but I couldn't make it through the weekend. I was there for board meetings with the retired NBA players as a board member. I ended up leaving on Saturday because I couldn't be in that environment anymore. I kept seeing myself ending my life in my hotel room. And the whole worldwide audience would be asking the question. And headlines, James Donaldson, former NBA All-Star, takes his life. That scared me. I ran back to Seattle in the comforts of my own living room so I can just sit down and just kind of decompress, only to be hit with the news that my business was out of business all of a sudden. The bankers, the creditors, all the people I owed money to just stopped everything, froze our bank accounts. I had 25 employees I had to call in on a Monday morning. I just got back from LA on Saturday, and I had to face all of them and tell them all, "Hey, clean out your lockers. We're done. I kept it going as long as I could, but we can't do it anymore. That was the most difficult time, February 2018. But yet, I kept on plugging away and hanging in there. Doggedly determined, as I said, one, because of Tyler Helinski and what he did himself. And so my story is, my advice to all of you, my encouragement to all of you is, no matter what you're going through, and we're going to go through a lot. Some of it brought on by our own doings. Some of it just brought on because life is what life is. Don't go through it alone. Reach out for help. If you don't have a real good, close relationship, friendship with somebody here on your base, make sure you form one. These are lifelong friendships you're making right now and relationships. This experience you're going through now. Make sure you have somebody to talk to and turn to. And so as that darkness started lifting towards the end of 2018, a voice came to me, God's voice, I know it was, and said, James, this is going to be your next chapter of life. You've had a chapter of professional basketball, a chapter of business ownership, a chapter of community involvement. This is going to be your next chapter for the next 2 or 3 decades. I want you to get out there and speak and encourage people from your platform to remind them that life will not be without trials and tribulations, to remind them that no matter what you're going through, you can make it through, and you will. This gift of life I talk about, it's too precious to throw it away. I embarked upon opening up a nonprofit foundation called Your Gift of Life Foundation, because I want to continually remind people that life is truly a gift. And this is your gift. You matter. Each and every one of you. And I know we're in a very divisive, crazy time, society-wise, politically wise, culturally wise, racial wise. Everything's divided, everything's crazy, everything seems upside down. Vaxxers versus non-vaxxers. We're going back to segregated ways that we worked so hard to get through back in the 40s and 50s. It's incredible what we're going through. But you matter. Yes, everybody matters. But sometimes, you have to look at yourself and say, hey, I matter. I matter. And that's how I take it now. I stand up for myself. I excuse myself when times are too stressful. I don't put myself in stressful situations if I can help it, or I prepare myself the best I can to handle it. I have to take care of me, because when it comes down to it, you are all you have. Yes, you got friends. Yes, you got family. But when it really comes down to it, you are all you have, and you have to take care of you. There's a saying that says, hurt people hurt people. If you're hurting inside, there's no way you can love people the way you need to. You have to love yourself first, in a healthy way. I'm not talking about an egotistical, crazy kind of way. No. A healthy kind of self-love. Then you can love others and be able to do good with them and have a healthy mindset and a healthy physical body set as well. I want each and every one of you to make sure that you do the best you can. I know in talking to some of your folks I've been working with to put this program together, we've had suicides already on this base this year. 1 a month. Got 9 or 10 already this year. maybe somebody you know. But they're not here to talk for themselves anymore. Don't let that happen to you. And so I know we want to make this a little bit interactive if we can. We want to open it up for Q&A, questions and answers, and I'll be more than happy to talk about anything that you have in mind. I think they're going to run a mic up and down the aisle, it looks like back there. So think about some of the things I talked about. And if you have any questions of how I did this or how I did that or what should I do or what should a friend of mine do, let me tell you this before we get started though. The best thing you can do for somebody going through difficult mental challenges is to be a supportive, listening ear. Even if you just sit there in quiet and keep them as company, they'll open up sooner or later and talk to you about what's going on. The worst thing you can do is be judgmental. You should have done this, you should have done that, or try this, try it. No. People don't want to hear that. They're suffering already. So be an open ear for them to talk to and lean on so that you can help others as well. And pray that you have that in your life for yourself as well. Are we ready for our questions and answers out here? Okay, I'm sorry we didn't have our video clips and all of that, but this will do for today. We got a question? We got something going? Oh, we're going. Well, we can do it in kind of a funny order here. Why don't we go? I don't have my clicker anyway, but go ahead and play this one, and this will show you a little bit about my background way, way back in the day.
Born in Meacham, England, James Donaldson's first season of organized basketball came as a high school senior in Sacramento. Washington State head coach Donaldson was on his second team his junior season at Boston. This was the fourth round in 1979 draft to Donaldson's first season playing professional basketball.
That was some 40 years ago and 40 pounds ago. But we have, the Winnebago Wall, myself, Lonnie Shelton, Jack Sikma. Go ahead and let's flip through the rest of the slides. We only got about 6 or 8 of them in there. Yeah. Nope, nothing else. That's it. That's all we had. All right, well, hey, guys. All right, let's go to our questions and answers. Do we have anybody who wants to start off? Go ahead, sir. We got a mic here right for you.
Thank you very much. Yeah. Do I have to wear this? Yeah, just to, okay, cool. Okay, real quick, I guess the one question I've had is, given the increase in mental health problems that people seem to be having recently and the relatively lacking mental health professionals that are available to handle these issues, do you have any advice or any resources that you've used or you would recommend for people who might be struggling, not necessarily just with suicide, but with mental health in general?
Yes, thank you. Yes, 2 really great resources that are readily available, totally free. Of course, one is the National Suicide Prevention Line, where they have around-the-clock answering of real-life people 24/7. that they will talk you through whatever you might be going through. They'll listen to you, they'll help you, they'll encourage you, and if they need to, they can call a medical professional to help you as well. That's one great resource that's always there. Another is, I'm a board member with NAMI. NAMI is the National Alliance for Mental Illness. And there's a Seattle chapter. It's a national organization. Seattle has a chapter of which I'm a board member. And they have all the great resources right there available too. If you need a behavioral health counselor, they can help you with that. If you need a doctor or medication advice, prescriptions and those kind of things, they can help you with all that information. So don't be afraid to reach out. And there's more, there's a lot more resources as well. Don't be afraid to reach out and talk to any of these people. These are your professionals. Now, one thing about my nonprofit foundation I set up, yourgiftoflife.org, is the beneficiary that we will have is I will continue to do presentations and raise money for our foundation. And that money will in turn go out towards tuition and scholarships to students of color who are going into mental health profession. We don't have hardly enough mental health professionals and even much, much fewer mental health professionals of color. Nationwide, of the tens of thousands of mental health professionals we have, only 3% are of color, and less than 1% is African American. And so I want to encourage our young people that I work with now to go into our mental health professions. We will help you with your tuition, your scholarships, and give back to your communities. This is one of the reasons that so many communities of color really struggle reaching out for mental health help, is because we don't have anybody that looks like us. You know, when my doctor assigned me a behavioral health counselor, he assigned me a young, mid-20-year-old Caucasian woman who had no idea, you know, how to relate with me. As one, as an older man, two, as an African American, her best advice to me was to go home and count sheep at night so I can get to sleep, you know, and that just wasn't working. And so we need people who look like us, who can relate with us, who intuitively know what we might be going through. We got a lot of work to do. And now, because of this pandemic and the next coming pandemic or epidemic will be mental health. And we don't have nearly enough. So this is even more important, why you have to make sure you take care of you. If you feel the slightest sense of anxiety, panic attacks, PTSD, depression, suicidal ideations, you even have those kind of thoughts, reach out for help. Let other people know that you're dealing with those kind of things as well. So thank you for your question, but that's one of the things I really want to help out with our foundation to get more mental health therapists of color on board.
Good afternoon, sir. How's it going?
Yes, thank you.
Here in the Army, what a lot of our service members tend to do is seek out formal help once the symptoms are severe or, you know, it's a last-minute resort. And like my colleague here said, we are understaffed in the behavioral health MOS. So even if they seek out formal help, you know, sometimes the appointment takes about a month or two. Can you talk to our service members here and civilians here of what stood out from what your friends did to support you? Seems like you had a very strong social support system. And anything specific we can do to look out for our colleagues that we work in and day out. A lot of the service members don't know that the best person that knows each other are those that you spend every day with, right?
That's right, that's right.
And the formal support, psychiatrists, social workers, psychologists, you come to see us once a week, once every 2 weeks. And our appointments are 2 months out. So we do build relationship, we build rapport with you, but the people that know you the best are those that are with you every day.
Thank you, okay. Well, it's a very good question and a very interesting situation that everyone finds themselves in. But I would say, again, I want to stress again the importance of putting together your network of intimate, close, personal relationships around you. Someone you can call at 2 in the morning if you have to. someone you can sit down with during the day and just say, hey, I'm really struggling with this or that. And this person won't be judgmental back towards you, is the best thing that you can do at this point, because I know resources are slim. I know our current administration is pledging to provide so many more resources towards mental health in the armed forces. But, you know, the bureaucratic system, the wheels turn so slowly. And by the time it finally reaches down to here and to everybody that needs help, it could be years down the road. So don't let that happen. Don't wait on that to happen. Make sure that you, and this is what you can control yourself, put your network of friends together. You only need one or two. You don't need a whole bunch of them. And if you see somebody that looks a little despondent, looks a little bit out of it, isn't smiling anymore, is lacking energy and any kind of life to them, they are probably going through something. So just saddle up next to them and say, hey, do you need a friend? Do you need somebody to talk to? I'm here for you. That person is probably struggling. If you see somebody that's getting their affairs in order, giving away their personal items, talking about hurting themselves, talking about suicide, these are all signs to watch out for suicidal behavior. Make sure that you just, like I said, sit next to that person, spend some time with them. And sooner or later, you'll find 9 times out of 10, they will open up more and more to you and tell you what they're going through, what they're thinking, how scared they are, and they have nobody to talk to. You can be that person. But thank you very much for your question.
Yeah, I'm not going far. Hi there, I'm Lieutenant Lammers and a social work intern here on JBLM. So it seems as though in the situation and the experiences that you went through, you had a lot of people around you that you could rely on, good support system. Here in the military, we have that with our battle buddies. Some people may be a little scared or nervous to actually reach out, and like Lieutenant Sandoval said, appointments can be months out. So I'm just wondering, it might be helpful if you wouldn't mind explaining some of the things that you did, maybe coping skills, breathing techniques, anything that you did that was helpful where you didn't necessarily have to reach out, but it was useful in maybe reducing some of those suicidal ideations or symptoms that you had.
Right, right. Well, one thing is I tried to keep my routine as normal as possible. Instead of pulling the covers over my head and staying in bed until noon, which I felt like doing a lot of times, I still got up at my regular time in the morning and got my day started. I stuck to my routines. I went to the gym and worked out. You know, those endorphins that get released when you exercise are good for you. I went for a walk on occasion. I sat down with friends over coffee at coffee shops and just talked to them or let them talk to me. And I just needed that connection, you know, that personal connection. I kept going to work every day. As long as my business was still operating, I was at work every day, staying busy, trying not to think. The hardest time was coming back to the house all by myself. And those walls have a way of just closing in on you. And that voice, there's little impulsive voices that come over you at some point. They came over me. I'm not a very impulsive guy by nature. I mean, I'm very thoughtful, methodical, and kind of planning, strategic and all of that, but sometimes an impulsive voice will come into your mind and say, hey, you've already thought about ways to kill yourself. Go ahead and do it. Just do it. And you got to fight that. That's the scariest part of this whole thing, is when you start hearing those kind of voices, thinking those kind of thoughts. Get out of the house, get some fresh air, get some sunshine, be with people that care about you and you care about them is the best thing you can do. Mm-hmm. Another one over here?
Sergeant Armstead from McCord Air Force Base. A quick question. You mentioned earlier that you were a man of faith.
Yes.
What were some scriptures or a scripture that really helped you through, if you don't mind sharing?
Wow, that's a good question. You know, I know when I made it through all of that, the scripture that kept going through my mind was of Queen Esther, how God had prepared her for a time such as this. And God let me go through those 12 months. He went through it with me, but he let me go through those 12 very difficult months and prepared me for a time such as this, to be able to get up here and talk to you all and to share my story, and share my tears, my pain, my hurt, my healing. In a way, this is kind of therapeutic for me too, because I still get choked up, I still get emotional about it because it was so real and so close to ending it all. So that's my scripture, but as I said earlier, life is not going to be without trials and tribulations. We know that. Why don't we better prepare for that? We can't see it coming, I guess, half the time. But I've been prepared for a time such as this. Thank you.
Hey, Mr. Donaldson, thank you for coming. I'm Sergeant First Class Green from the 2-2 Stryker Brigade.
Thank you.
My question to you is that you were sitting there. I just want to know, like, what were some of the signs that you noticed yourself that you've reached your breaking point?
Thank you for your question. Mine was when I could no longer sleep through the night. You know, as long as I was getting a decent night's sleep, I could go on with my next day and just plow through it and keep on going. But there came a point, and I'd say the holidays of 2017, between Thanksgiving and Christmas, that whole month, I just did not think I was going to make it through that month before the holidays rolled around or during the holidays. And so there was a point where for a week or so, I'd go to bed at night and I'd wake up around 1 in the morning. And as I mentioned, my mind's racing 100 miles an hour. One, trying to figure out, okay, how do I keep my business going? How do I get more money, more investors, more something? And the other thought is, how do I exit out of this world? So that was my breaking point where I finally reached out for medical help professional with my doctor. And that's when he made his diagnosis. I didn't know it. I didn't think I was depressed. I didn't think I had a problem until I couldn't sleep anymore. I thought he was just going to give me a simple sleeping pill and tell me to take a couple of these and see him next week. No, it turned into something much more than that. So you'll see those kind of signs with yourselves. And that's why it's important to know yourself as well as you can. Your healthy state of mind right now, and when things seem a little bit off or different, or you're thinking different thoughts, especially harmful thoughts, is when you really need to reach out for help.
Go ahead. Good. Hey, it's me again, sorry. Hey, one more follow-up question is, I totally appreciate all your encouragement and things like that. And what was it, my question to you is that, what was it in you that saw within yourself to keep pushing on?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think just that. The fact I told you about Tyler Helinski, and I didn't want people running around trying to tell my story. I've got a couple good friends down here, and they could tell good stories about me. But I don't need anybody talking about how nice a smile I had or how good a student I was. That doesn't talk about me. That doesn't say much about me. I wanted to tell my story of how difficult a time this was and how I worked and worked and worked my way through the hardest thing I've ever had to go through. The hardest thing. I mean, I've played through injuries, I've played through ups and downs, I've played through bad, hateful teams and great teams. I've done all kinds of things in life. This was the most difficult, challenging time I've ever had to go through. And I couldn't have made it by myself. I made it with God's help and grace, and I made it with my close group of intimate, close friends that I could talk to and turn to anytime. And I told my friends, please call on me too. Call me 2 or 3 times a week and check on me. See what I'm thinking that day. See how, if am I a positive mindset or a negative mindset, am I filled with doom and gloom? Check on me. The only people calling me back then were bankers and lawyers and loan shark people and all kind of people that didn't have my good in mind. I needed somebody in my life who really had my overall good in mind. So that's how I made it through.
Hey, sir, Lieutenant Sandoval once again. Thank you for sharing your story, but you are a prime example that depression and suicide ideation doesn't only affect one specific population. Obviously, it affects all ages, race, ethnicity, gender, right? All military branches. Can you talk about the importance of behavior activation, meaning how important it is to be engaged with other activities outside of your home? Because one of our most affected populations here in the Army is our junior enlisted, females and males, all genders, ages of 18 to 22, where their first duty station could be JBLM, they haven't met too many people, first time being away from the family, first time ever holding a real job, first paycheck, right? So you're starting to meet people, especially with COVID currently, it's hard to do that. So the importance, what we like to focus on is the importance of behavior activation. Many of our service members just stay in their barracks and play video games all day, watch YouTube. Not saying that's a symptom of depression, but the importance of how important it was to you to get outside of your home and go hang out with other people, do whatever it was, even if it was by yourself, but just being in a different environment.
That's right. That's right. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that is so important. I mean, to maintain a sense of balance in your life. If it's all doom and gloom, you're going to be feeling terrible and have a horrible day, day after day. You need to balance that out. I just spoke at Washington State University, my alma mater, on Tuesday. And the same thing, those college students going onto campus for the first time, being away from home, especially as freshmen, first time experiencing the loneliness and the lack of friends on a college campus is very similar to what you go through here. Sure, you have duties assigned to you, keep you busy and all those kind of things, but you're still in a different, unfamiliar environment for quite a while. And so it really becomes up to you. I mean, some of you are introverts, some of you are extroverts. You've got to push yourself to just reach out and make a connection with somebody who will be there with you and for you.
Sir, my name is Raleigh. So coming off of that question, from somebody who is a junior enlisted and living in the barracks and knows nobody here, what was so when you're in that state of mind and you just want to be inside, left alone, not do anything, what did you tell yourself or what did you do to kind of force yourself to get out and go make those friends and change your environment?
Thank you for the question, yeah. Well, for me, when I was in the midst of all that, it was more scary to be at home alone than it was to be out amongst people. At least among people, I had to fake put on a smile. I had to fake looking like I was okay. At home, you don't have to do that, especially if you're by yourself. And you just keep sinking deeper and deeper and deeper. And this is why I'm encouraging you, you have to get out among people. And even though they can't really see that something's going on, this is the thing about mental health issues. You can't see on the outside that somebody is having some difficulty. But on the inside, they are many times in such turmoil, such pain, such hurt, that they need to get out and be among people. We're social creatures. This is one of the issues with this pandemic, making us distance ourselves. We are naturally social people. This is the way humans are. And we need to for a healthy mindset. And so I had to force myself, even to go down and sit at the local coffee shop, to be around people, to go to my place of business, to be around people. You have to force yourself. And that's the hardest part about this stuff, is pushing yourself to do things that you don't feel like doing. And I've been there. I know I didn't feel like doing it. I didn't want to do it. But I had to do it because I knew it was best for me.
Hello, sir. I was wondering, after you went through everything you went through, have you ever found yourself going back into that depression mode? And if so, was it easy or hard for you to get back out?
Thank you for your question. Yeah. Well, the months after 2018, when I finally emerged from that darkness, every now and then, periodically, I'd have a bad day where I would revert back to that thought of that passage I just came through. It was probably maybe once every couple weeks for a while, and then it kind of lengthened out to once every month, once every couple months. And truthfully now, I can't remember the last time I had a bad day where I had negative thoughts of suicidal ideations or exiting this world, anything like that. Now I'm fully back to where I used to be, where I need to be, and I realize now that I have a lot of work to do, and life is a joy, it's a gift, and I'm going to cherish every single moment of it. So I'm fully back to where I want to be, but yes, you will notice that you will have a periodic hiccup every now and then when you come out of this darkness. That's normal. And make sure you just rely on your resources, your tools, your skills that you learn going through this, and you'll make it through that period of time. Thank you.
I was wondering, were you ever concerned about how reaching out for help would affect your career?
Not necessarily. It's a good question, and I know that a lot of people who are employees especially, I was a business owner. Now, I couldn't tell my employees I was struggling because I'm supposed to be the leader of the pack, right? So I had to be strong and tough and resilient, at least on the outside. And so they didn't really know all the struggles I was going through. But if you're an employee, luckily most workplaces are getting better about providing support for those employees that are having mental health crisis days, they call it. Even here in the military, I know we're trying to provide more and more resources. You have a suicide prevention department right here that you need to stay in touch with or see what kind of resources they have for you. If you ever feel the need to call somebody or talk to somebody or help yourself along the way, you've got resources right here. And I hope that you are knowledgeable of as many as possible. And as Colonel was talking about earlier, you know, all the activities that are all about mood enhancement and anxiety lessening, exercise activities. Get involved with those things. Do as much as you can when you can. Yeah.
Hey, sir. So I'm Sergeant First Class Baker. I'm from the 1st NDTF, and we have a resiliency program in the Army. And in that program, it talks about various things, but one of them is downward spiral. And it seems like your downward spiral started about 2015, and gradually those clouds started to get thicker and thicker through 2018. Can you describe the emotions and the feelings that you felt in 2018 at the end, whenever enduring 3 years of what you went through? The feeling that you had once you were able to take control and finally start to see the light.
Wow, yeah, it was nothing but relief and joy and jubilation that I had made it through. You know, part of my issue was after these serious heart surgeries, I was no longer the athlete I used to be. You know, up until that point, I was still running 3 or 4 miles a day, 3 or 4 times a week, very active, in the gym 2 hours, lifting weights. I can hardly walk across the parking lot now without doubling over and huffing and puffing. Going up and down stairs, you saw me come up these stairs, struggling to get upstairs. So I'm not nearly the physical athlete I used to be. And that bothered me for a long time. It still bothers me because I wish I can get out there and jog still. I wish I can go shoot some baskets and things, but I just can't do it. And so, you know, I had to just endure all of that and realize what the new normal was for me. I can still go to the gym, but I'm in there for 20 minutes riding a recumbent bike and lifting little 20-pound dumbbells and things. And I used to do 100-pound dumbbells, you know? I can't do those things. So again, it comes down to really knowing who you are and what you're capable of, what your normal is. And when I finally made it through that, I just felt a sense of freedom and liberation and excitement and a new appreciation for life. I never knew much about mental health challenges before I went through it. You know, I was like most people. I just say, yeah, I'll just shake it off, you know, tough it out, you'll be okay, don't cry, you know. But I've learned so much now. And I know those aren't the right things to tell anybody. But I didn't know until I went through it. Now I know. My empathy is off the charts for anybody who's going through any kind of difficult mental challenge, especially. I was able to really relate well to people who had medical emergencies as well. And say, wow, you know, now I know, both physical and mental. And I believe the good Lord just had me go through those things. After 55 great years of no problems, he said, well, let's put you through some problems. And now you know, and now you can get out and talk and help other folks. Thank you. Yes.
Hi, Lisa with JBLM Public Affairs. Question for you. What do you say to that person who feels shame for having mental health issues, or feels like, you know, they don't want people to see the real them, or they have to portray this strong persona that you mentioned? What do you say to that person to get them to go talk to someone?
Yes, it's a very good question. And she's actually the reporter that interviewed me before our program here. And we were talking a little bit about this, especially in our communities of color and African American communities, of course, of which I grew up and am part of still, will ever be. And so many of our men, our African American men, are on the exterior, tough, macho, you know, very, very masculine guys that aren't going to show you any kind of weakness, any chink in their armor. They don't want you to see that. And to them, I say, hey, you have to find somebody who can be close enough to you that you can relate to, that you can share your most innermost fears. We all have fears and anxieties. And some people just clamp down on those and won't let anybody see that. And it's very detrimental to your journey of life. And to your physical health too at some point. It's going to start wearing on your physical health as well. So the sooner you can reach out and find that one person, even if it's just one person, that you can say, hey, I need to share with you something I've never shared with anybody else, then that's going to make a world of difference. And it's going to open you up and help you realize that there is help available. And there's no shame in this game. None at all. Luckily, we're living in a time now where talking about mental health is a little bit more acceptable. You know, 20 years ago, it wasn't. It still has a taboo in a lot of our communities, communities of color especially. LGBTQ communities have difficulty with mental health. Being ostracized, being different, being looked at, you know, differently. Those things work on your mental health. And you have to say, hey, I'm in it for the long run. And no way am I going to cheat myself or cheat anybody who cares about me and loves me by taking my life early. Let Father Time deal with that. He'll deal with all of us down the road. But in the meantime, you stay on that road and keep on plugging away as best you possibly can. Another question back here?
Yes, sir. Lieutenant Tolbert with 22. So was there a progression for you with simple questioning yourself all the way to ideations? And if there was, did your friends notice, or your intimate relationships with your friends, did they notice at any point in that time? Or did you have to express yourself for them to know / understand what was going on with you?
Thank you. Good question. Very good question. No, none of my friends knew I was going through any difficult time. You know, it was only that small little group of friends that I pulled together that knew I was going through a very difficult time. The rest of my friends, after I went through all of that and emerged out of it 3 or 4 years later, they come at me now and they say, hey, I didn't know you went through that. You know, how come you didn't tell me? Well, you know, you don't feel like telling the world for one thing. And you just you only need a small group of friends. You don't need everybody in your world knowing everything that's going on about you. I didn't really realize I was having a big problem until, like I said, I couldn't sleep through the night. because I was still functioning very well, functioning at a very high level, running my business, running around town, doing all the meetings I do. But those walls kept on closing in on me at night when I'm at home all by myself. And that's when it started getting the better of me. And I just couldn't escape that. You know, I can go out and hang out all day, but at home I had to come home at night and be by myself at night. And that's when it really kept on creeping up on me and finally engulfing me into that world of darkness. And luckily I realized that that was the case, and I reached out for medical help. And that was the first step. Medical help is the best help for all of us. Back to our communities of color, you know, so many of us grow up in a very faith-based communities. God's going to take care of me. God's going to see me through. Well, but God also gives you the wherewithal and the thinking ability to make decisions, good decisions for yourself. God's not going to make your decision for you. He'll take care of you, but you got to make the decision to go get help. And that's what it comes down to. Mm-hmm. Wow, any other questions, guys? I'm sorry we didn't have our PowerPoint presentation. I mean, there's a lot of powerful information in that, a lot of great inspiring things that I take from that. I took a lot of it from it and shared with you. But I just want to say thank you so much for your time today. And please cherish this gift of life that each and every one of you have. Think of your loved ones. Think of those who will be left behind if you leave this earth. And for years later, the Helinsky family, for instance, years later, they're still wondering what in the world happened. They never get over it. Don't put anybody through that. Get yourself some help now while you can, before you go into those depths of depression. And make sure that you are going to be okay for the long run. We all got decades of life ahead of us, and we need to make it the best life that we can possibly do. So with that, I want to say thank you so very much. I'll turn the program back over to Jennifer. And thank you. Be well. Be blessed. Enjoy your very, very special day. Thank you now.
So thank you, James. Yeah, thank you for sharing your story with all of us. And thank you all for being here. We appreciate it. So I am your Installation Suicide Prevention Program Manager. Please reach out. So many resources, chaplains, MFLAC. I'll give you the phone number right now for the hotline if you want it. It's 1-800-273-TALK. Just be there for one another. Let's start talking. Let's get this open dialogue, okay? You all, thank you so much again. You all have a good day and a great weekend, okay? Bye-bye.
All right, thank you now.